From beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, it is the Neglected News Report. I'm Scott Mitchell here along with my brother Kevin.
Good afternoon.
Oh, there goes that sound file. I don't know what's wrong with that. That thing hangs up every so often. Anyway, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood here. It's almost warm enough to wear shorts already here in Phoenix.
73 degrees it'll be today.
Yep.
Although the average Phoenician, they keep wearing their coats until it gets about 80.
Yeah, we have thin blood here.
Oh, it's funny. We had a cold front a few weeks ago. It got into the 30s at night, and probably in the 50s to 60s during the day. And there's people with parkas and hoods walking around. It's amazing. The people from the east, when they come out here, they just laugh.
Yeah, well, if you remember, we were the same way when we first moved out here, almost 43 years ago. Be 43 years in March.
Yeah.
Yep.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, we know who's going to be in the conference finals.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
I'm hoping. I'm not a big lover of either Seattle or Green Bay because
neither am I.
But still, because I'm a Cardinal fan, Seattle's a bunch of arrogant punks. They're good. I mean, I'll give them that. So I would love to see Aaron Rodgers go in there and beat them in their own place, but it's not very likely.
Much as I hate to say it, I wouldn't mind that either. But but it's kind of hard for me because I really don't like Packer fans.
Did you hear what was the thug who used to play for the Ravens? That's a commentator now. What's it? Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis made this comment the other day about Tom Brady. He said that if Tom Brady hadn't they hadn't made that rule, the tuck rule, it has to do with whether or not a pass is a fumble or an interception.
Right, they've been using that a lot this year.
Yeah, well, apparently it was the league designed it because of something that happened with Tom Brady in a playoff game many years ago. Well, anyway, it's neither here nor there. Ray Lewis said that if it wasn't for that, nobody would know who Tom Brady was.
Really?
Did you know?
What a moron!
Do you know in the last 13 years, 9 of those 13 years, the Patriots have been in conference finals.
Yeah. I mean, they're an awesome team. They haven't always
won
the Super Bowl,
and he's a great quarterback. I'm not a huge fan.
How many Super Bowls have they won?
I
2?
forgot. No,
they won the one that was here.
I forgot, but
no, they lost that one to the Giants.
To totally diss him like that is ridiculous. It's like it would be like dissing Peyton Manning or what's his name down in New Orleans?
Tom Brady or Drew Brees.
Drew Brees. Those are Kurt Warner. I mean, those are really. Mm-hmm. Come on, they've proven on the field what they're made of.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's going to end up being New England and Seattle.
Probably.
I mean, that's what the network wants, and that's where the fix is going to be in.
Yep.
Alrighty, so it was a wonderful week in the news. What do we got?
Well, I hate to go back to the Paris thing, but it's so creepy. Creepy in the sense that we've got an administration who still refuses to call Islamic extremism Islamic extremism. Mm-hmm. Did you hear who's that?
Josh Earnest.
Oh, talking about
this guy was tripping over his own tongue to when someone asked him why you won't. It was Ed Henry from Fox.
Yeah,
he was tripping over his own tongue when Ed Henry asked him why they won't admit what the real problem is, who the people really are, and everything. He was just doing so many tongue calisthenics. He couldn't get the answer out. How would you like that job?
How would you like to have his job? I would hate it.
I wouldn't. Then, we didn't mention this in our pre-show talk. The fact that the president didn't show up for the rally in Paris.
Now, I'm always interested in the why behind everything.
Because everyone can see the what.
Yeah, the why is the most important thing. And that always brings me back to that scene in 1984 where Winston Smith is laying in bed with the little whore that would eventually turn him in. And he was talking about the whole system that they were living under. And he said to her, I know the what. I just want to know the why. And that's the things that have always motivated me too. So getting back to this why as it pertains to our government, our White House, and radical Islam, there's only two possibilities as to why they do what they do or don't do what they should do. One of them is the not calling radical Islam what it is, from the Fort Hood shooting to this to myriad others. One of them is that they're just mired in political correctness, and that they're just prisoners of their own set of laws that they make, and that may be true. I don't think so. The second possibility is that they really relate to them.
I think the ones at the top really relate to them, and I think their underlings are in the first category.
Well, you do know, you know that Islam and Nazism and fascism, communism go hand in hand. And Beck has been saying that for a couple of years now. He said you will see an alliance between the communists and the Islamics, and the old saying,
the enemy of my enemy. It's a Middle Eastern saying.
Yes.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, because okay. The thing you got to realize is that the ISIS, they're fascists. They want to control everything. Communists want to control everything too, but in a different way. They want to.
Islam isn't a religion. It's a political system. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah. In some ways, I have to agree.
And so, what we have sitting in the White House, I'm not going to parse words today.
It is a theocracy.
You might leave the show thinking, "Geez, that guy's a nut job. He's a crazy bird."
If it wasn't, why would you?
But we have a guy sitting in the White House who I think is both A, Muslim, and B, communist. We already have a track record knowing that he's a communist sympathizer. If you're reading Saul Alinsky, you're even in his book Dreams of My Father, he talked about in his college days sitting around talking about communism. You read in
Dinesh D'Souza's book, I forget which one it is now, but he was saying that he says that Barack Obama is an anti-colonialist, and they had two brands of anti-colonialism in Africa. One of them was the brand that wanted to remain friends with the U.S. and the West and get along with them. The other brand was the Marxist-based one, which was the one his father was an adherent of and a huge proponent of. He was like, in Africa, his dad was like second in command, in charge of that branch of anti-colonialism. See, that's the thing. Not enough has come out about his father. And who did his grandfather set up as a role model for him? Frank Marshall Davis, biggest communist. Introduced him to him.
He was a card carrying commie. But the fact that, what did he say after was it the movie guy, the guy who made the movie that was blamed on Benghazi?
The future will not belong to those who insult the prophet or something.
Exactly.
Or
Not only does will he refuse to use the word radical Islamist, but he takes every opportunity. What did he say? The most beautiful sound he ever heard was the prayer, call to prayer.
Yeah.
No, when's the last time you heard him say anything like that about Christianity? On the contrary, remember that speech it was probably back in 2009 or 10 when he sat there and talked about he's about the Bible and all the the ludicrous things that were in it, about parting the Red Sea and all that, and basically laughing about it. Yet you won't hear him talk the same way about the Quran. As a matter of fact, he talks lovingly of it.
Here, let's see. Okay, the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. Said in a 2012 speech. So, yeah.
So when you look at him
at the United Nations General Assembly, 25th of September, 2012.
If you look at him through the lens that I just described of him being both a Muslim and a communist, well, then his reaction to not going to Paris makes absolute sense, because he basically approves of what happened. Mm-hmm. He hasn't said anything to the contrary. What we talked about Christiane Amanpour last week, calling them activists. Yeah, right. Activists. What kind of world are we living in where the only Josh Ernst the other day when Ernest when he talked about other radicals, groups out there, why didn't anybody ask him to say, who are you talking about?
And who's
Ed
that?
Henry?
Who's that one State Department? It's not Jen Psaki. The other one with the glasses, the blonde hair and glasses, that gets up there. And they were earlier this week that she was talking about radical groups and activist groups.
Yes,
you know the one, and she just will not.
They held her feet to the fire, and she refused. Who was interviewing her? I can't remember.
I don't remember. It might have been. It wasn't Megyn Kelly, but no, I think it was Martha McCallum filling in, or Shannon Bream filling in for Megyn Kelly.
She asked her. This interviewer asked her, "Can you tell me what groups you are talking about? As far as extremists." She couldn't, because you know why? There aren't any.
Because, and here's another reason that probably to look at it, because they'll make it up as they go along. If they find a group that they don't like, they'll find some way of turning them into an extremist group so that they can demonize them and marginalize them. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about radical Islam. We're told, what is there, 1.5 billion Muslims in the world?
Something like that.
And we're told that there's just a very sliver of those that are radicalized.
Let's say that's true.
No. And in fact, this is taken from an article called "The Myth of the Tiny Radical Muslim Minority." It's from Breitbart, and it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 countries, and it takes a poll of the Muslims that live in each nation, their opinions about certain things. Like for instance, in France, this one poll shows that a full 16% of French people have positive attitude toward ISIS. That includes 27% of French between the ages of 18 and 24. This is the ideology of young French Muslims from immigrant backgrounds. These are the same people who torch synagogues. In Britain, a 2006 poll found that 40% of British Muslims wanted Sharia law in the United Kingdom, and that 20% backed the 7/7 bombers. 20% backed the bombing that killed. How many people were killed in that bombing?
With the 7/7?
The 7/7 in the subway system.
Oh.
That
in what country now? I'm trying to remember that one now.
Britain.
Oh, you talking about in 2005?
I forget what year it was.
It was, and then they went into the buses too. It was 150, I think.
Something like that. And 40% of British Muslims, 20% of British Muslims backed that action. 20%. Take 20%, extrapolate 1.5 billion in the world.
Okay.
Those are radicals, sorry.
I ran the numbers. Even if you were to take 1% of that 1.5, that's 15 million.
That's a lot.
That's a whole lot. You could do a lot of serious damage with 15 million.
That's an army.
That is bigger than the combined armies of the U.S., all of Europe, and Russia combined.
Get this. 45% of British Muslims said that 9/11 was an American-Israeli conspiracy. Okay? Oh, this one ought to be good. areas where Palestinians live. A poll in 2001 showed that 32% of Palestinians supported the brutal murder of 5 Israeli family members, including a 3-month-old baby.
I remember that one.
A 3-month-old baby, 32%.
Yeah, that made me cry. That was just horrific. I
remember that story. I don't want to go into detail about it, but let's suffice it to say that the mother was holding the baby in the closet, trying to keep the baby from crying. And
wasn't it like just after a family celebration or something?
I forgot. Okay. In 2009, a poll showed that 78% of Palestinians had positive or mixed feelings about Osama bin Laden. And 40% of Palestinians supporting suicide bombings and attacks against civilians. 40%. 89% favored Sharia law. And 89% of Palestinians support terror attacks on Israel. Okay, Pakistan. After the killing of Osama bin Laden, the Jalani Foundation did a poll of Pakistanis and found that 51% of them grieved for the terrorist mastermind, with 44% of them stating that he was a martyr. In 2009, 26% of Pakistanis approved of attacks on U.S. troops in Iraq. That number was 29% for troops in Afghanistan. Overall, 76% of Pakistanis wanted strict Sharia law in every Islamic country. I'm not going to go on and because it gets the numbers get boring, but they're very consistent. Mm-hmm. They're very consistent in basically showing that radical Islam is very common. Mm-hmm. If that's not radical, I don't know what is. It might not be radical to them. That just may be Islam itself. I don't know. Now, these aren't my numbers. These are, and yet our president refuses to use the two words radical and Islam in the same breath. Mm-hmm. Refuses to. On the flip side, you're going to love this one. The government has no problems qualifying we Americans as potential domestic terrorists. Here's a list of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 things that could put you on a watch list. These are qualities that define a person as a potential domestic terrorist. Number 1, expressions of libertarian philosophies. That is, statements or bumper stickers. Libertarian philosophies. Okay, that's me. They're number 1. One strike. Number 2, Second Amendment-oriented views. NRA or gun club membership, holding a CCW permit. Well, I don't have a CCW permit, only because we don't need one here in Arizona.
And that is why we are the most gun-friendly state in the country, according to the NRA, year after year after year.
So I'm 2 for 2. Number 3, possesses survivalist literature. Fictional books such as Patriots and 1 Second After are mentioned by name. That would be me. I do have survivalist literature. Number 3, self-sufficiency. That's defined as stockpiling food, ammo, hand tools, and medical supplies.
Something our grandparents, great-grandparents, and generations before them used to do as a matter of course every day.
These things are defining us as domestic terrorists, yet we can't call the people in these countries that I just was describing their views. We can't define them as radical Islamists. Okay, so number 5, fear of economic collapse, buying gold and barter items. That would be me. I don't buy gold, I buy silver. But you would have to be a moron to not fear economic collapse when you look at how our economic system is run. We charge one credit card and pay it off with another credit card, to make it simple for those of you who don't understand economics. We are living in a house of cards. We have $18 trillion in our debt, not to even include the derivatives that they're having us sign on to, the bankers are. That's 1.5 quadrillion. That's 1,000 trillion dollars. That doesn't even exist.
And how did we get into this debt? We borrowed and we printed money, thereby devaluing the dollar itself.
So that's fear of economic collapse is number 5. So I'm 5 for 5 there. Number 6, religious views concerning the book of Revelation, I'm 5 for 5. The apocalypse, and the Antichrist. Okay? Yeah, I've been known to talk about Revelations before. Mm-hmm. I'm a Christian. It's in the Bible. Yeah, I talk about it, and I believe in it.
Why is it okay for the militant Islamists to talk about theirs, but we can't talk about ours?
Oh, they have end time prophecy. Trust me, and it's fact they believe in pushing it. You heard that the crazy Ahmadinejad has talked about.
Yeah, he thought he was the 12th Imam.
Yeah, he wants to rush in the 12th Imam, and the only way in their world, in their end time prophecies, he arrives when all the world is in conflict. Basically, it's sort of like Revelations, but the inverse of it. So yeah, okay. So there, I'm 6 for 6. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was 6. So I'm 6 for 6. 7. Expressed fears of Big Brother or Big Government. Yeah.
If you're not, you're stupid.
Who likes our bloated government? Is that a good thing? Do you really think that's good?
Nope. I don't. Thomas Jefferson, the government that governs best is that which governs least.
And this next one, I don't take part in because my children are grown, is homeschooling. Mm-hmm. Watch out for that one, because if things continue to go where they're going, those people are going to be demonized, possibly thrown in jail. Mm-hmm.
They're going to, and you watch, they do it, they're going to characterize homeschoolers as committing child abuse.
Yes. You can't, see, to the big, the people like, this big status like Obama, you can't indoctrinate children who don't show up to school. You have to, that's all school is now, is indoctrination camps. Mm-hmm. They don't learn anything of any import. Nope. It's just, recycle, obey, Big Brother, one world this, global warming that. You don't learn. You not only do you learn nothing of import, but you learn a bunch of lies.
And you know what? I can remember this. Tell me if you remember this too. Our stepdad, who passed away last year, when we were kids, we'd talk about what happened at school, what we heard our teacher say, and he would kind of get down on us. He'd say, "You listen to everything your teacher says." Do you remember him saying that sometimes? And I never really got it until now.
Yeah.
Because it was happening back then, even in the 70s when we were in school.
Well, first of all, let me tell you something about people who graduate from the College of Education. They're typically the bottom of the barrel. I can tell you stories. I was a finance major at Arizona State. And I like to take a lot of English courses. And and in the English courses, there was a lot of education majors they were the dumbest of the dumb. Mm-hmm. So, and those are the people taking orders from, the powers that be. They don't question it. They believe every politically correct, idea, global warming, mm-hmm. You name it, the UN, all that stuff. They love it because they're not curious people.
Nope. So
those are who teaching you. Those are who's teaching our children, those people. Okay, number 8. Oh, this really makes me a terrorist. And I'm guilty of it. Declarations of constitutional rights and civil liberties.
I'm on a lot of those on that list, too.
Tell me how badly leftists hate our Constitution. But
they'll use it. They'll use it to defend any point of view if it'll help.
Because what our Constitution is a set of negative rights, right? What the government can't do to us.
Right.
Yeah, those are things that government can't do, and that's what the Constitution was designed. It was designed it was designed as a not retaliation. Rebuttal to
here's
to the King George III.
Obama even said it himself. This is from about a year and a half, June of 2013. The Obama referred to the Constitution as the Charter of Negative Liberties.
Well, yeah. I guess you could consider what Obama wants to do to you as positive, but I don't consider bending over and positive liberties.
Yeah.
And number 10, and again, I'm guilty of this, belief in a New World Order conspiracy. I believe in it only because the people who orchestrate it tell you about it. I can give you hundreds of recordings of people talking about the New World Order.
Here's the interesting thing about what Obama said. It's just a paragraph. I'm going to read it real quick. This is from June 13th or June 12th, 2013. It's Alex Jones's InfoWars. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, those of you who say he's a wacko, he's starting to make a lot of sense, though. The Supreme Court, this is Obama quoted here. The Supreme Court never ventured into the issues of redistribution of wealth and of more basic issues such as political and economic justice in society. The Supreme Court didn't break free from the essential constraints that were placed by the Founding Fathers in the Constitution, at least as it's been interpreted, and the Warren Court interpreted in the same way, that generally the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties. It says what the states can't do to you. It says what the federal government can't do to you, but here's the key. But it doesn't say what the federal government or state government must do on your behalf.
Yep.
Yes, it does say what the federal government and indirectly what the state government should do on your behalf. It lays out 18 enumerated powers or what the government should do on your behalf. Anything that is not listed there is reserved for the states or the people. It is in the 10th Amendment. It is clear about that. Don't, he's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, folks.
He's a communist.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I'm sorry. Joseph McCarthy did none of us a service. I agree. Because calling somebody a communist to this day sounds reactionary.
Right.
Even though it might be true. But by the way, basically most of what Joseph McCarthy brought forth was true. Alger Hiss was a communist, and he was in our government.
It has to be said also, it was started about nearly 10 years before that by Richard Nixon in the House Un-American Activities Committee.
So let me ask you this question. You are known by your fruit. Your tree is known by its fruit, right?
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Who does Obama surround himself with? Okay, first of all, Frank Marshall Davis. That's where he got his education from. His mother was Valerie Jarrett. Valerie Jarrett is what's his name? That used the bald black guy that used to be in his administration. The Green Czar.
Jones.
Van Jones.
Van Jones. Yeah.
Van Jones.
His first. I was going to say Vern. It's not Vern.
Self-admitted.
Yeah.
By the way, I was going to say Eric Holder, but has never come out and said it. But it wouldn't surprise me. But I thought he stepped down.
They haven't gotten his he's going to stay in office until his replacement is confirmed. That hasn't happened yet.
They haven't found a good communist to fill that spot, or
no? They're all running for the hills.
That's the most lawless Attorney General I've ever seen.
What about that one? I forget what her office was early on. That was like worshipped Mao.
Mao, yeah.
What was her name again?
The blonde. Oh, she did that speech at a graduation ceremony where she said that her biggest hero was Chairman Mao. And, in all fairness to Mao, he was only responsible for the murder of anywhere between 60 and 80 million.
Oh, he was a piker compared to like Joseph Stalin
Mao was pretty good. The 20th century was, if you want to, you hear all these people say, oh, religion's responsible for all the wars and all the discontent and all the people, being murdered throughout history. No, nothing holds a torch to what communism, which is godless, by the way,
right.
It by definition. If you read anything by Karl Marx, he getting rid of religion is top priority. But anyway, the biggest secular humanist experiments took place in the 20th century. And you know what was left in their wake? Corpses. Death. Because the individual means nothing.
According to...
But was it Stalin or Lenin said that in order to make an omelet, you got to break a couple eggs?
Yeah. You were mentioning that the other day, and I don't remember. According to this, communism is responsible for the deaths of between 85 and 100 million people
in the 20th
century. Yep.
So basically, going back to what I was talking about, we have an administration that can't bring itself to call Nigel Hassan a terrorist, even though he murdered 15 people while screaming Allah Akbar at Fort Hood a few years ago. Can't manage to call the thugs that murdered all those people in Paris these last few weeks. Can't muster you can't even begin to call them terrorists either, or which we're going to go to here in a second, Boko Haram in Africa. Can't call them radical Islamists or terrorists, but you can call people like my brother and I domestic terrorists because we're
hanging on to our religion and our guns.
We hold on to American things that were considered wholesome, apple pie, a generation ago, that somehow have been perversely twisted by, I believe, people from the dark side.
There was a picture posted on Facebook last week that I really loved. It was called Freedom Huddle, and it showed 5 American bald eagles in a huddle like a football game, and the caption was "America on 3." I love that.
Am I the only? Did you find that John Kerry going to France with
oh my
James
God.
Taylor odd?
It was very odd, especially when they didn't have the right microphone for him, and he's got it like down here. James Taylor's like tall like I am, and he's crunched over just to get to the microphone to sing into because they had the wrong microphone.
So what was it Kerry said to the French people? I want to give you a group hug, or what was it?
Oh, I don't know.
Then he brings the Scarecrow James Taylor with him to sing "You've Got a Friend."
Oh my God.
You know, maybe going to what did they call that? The Freedom Parade? What was it in response to the
on
murder?
Sunday? The one that Obama didn't show up at?
Yeah. Instead of going to that, he sends John Kerry and James Taylor and sing. That was almost as inappropriate as giving the Queen an iPod with his speeches.
It was surrealistic.
How about, remember when he gave the iPod to the Queen with all of his speeches, and returned the bust of Winston Churchill, by the way.
Right. Something that was traditional.
Do you know everything this man does is anti-American and typically anti-Christian, by the way.
Anti our allies too.
Yeah, I mean, our relationship with Israel has never been worse.
Yet, you listen to the people who just kiss his butt. They'll say that he has improved America's standing in the world. No, America. They laugh at America nowadays.
Oh. What kind of surreal world would you live in to believe that?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to get into some. This is I don't do this lightly because it's going to come across as conspiratorial, and it is. You know, there's some things that are considered conspiratorial that were true. I mean. You know, Caesar was the victim of a conspiracy. I mean, there are real conspiracies out there. But we heard everything. Has it been 2 weeks since Paris?
It'll be 2 weeks Tuesday, I believe.
2 weeks. And we've been hearing nonstop stuff, as we should. It was a terrible thing. However, during the same period, do you remember Boko Haram? Not to be confused with the group Boko Haram. Boko Haram in Nigeria murdered, and they're radical Islamists. Sorry, I'm using that term. 2,000 women and children and elderly in a village. Murdered 2,000, and I bet you many of you out there aren't even aware of that. Now, this is where we're going to get into conspiracy. This is my take on it. You know, some people might say, well, that just shows racism, that because, you know, the people in Paris were white and the people in Africa are black. Okay.
They can report both.
Yeah.
Why don't they? That's the question. The why again.
Now, and someone brought this up the other day. You remember years ago when, I don't know who it was. Was it Jesse Jackson who came out? And it makes a little sense, too. He came out and said, why is it a big story when a little white, you know, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl gets kidnapped, and it never makes the news when a black girl does? And there's some truth to that. I would bet that there was a lot of missing black children that no one ever hears about.
Now, because of cable news, you hear about them all.
But it's the same vein with this. Some people suggest. I've got a different take on it. Okay, the thing that happened with Boko Haram was true terrorism. It wasn't planned. These people are true Islamists, and they went on a murder spree. They didn't have sanctions from any government, any leaders or anything. They just went and did their thing. On the flip side, now this is where it's going to get weird for some of you, but what did we see in Paris? We saw a lot of images. We saw the man and the woman sitting in their apartment taking pictures and taking film of the masked gunmen. We had pictures of everything. It was in your face. You got to see everything. Okay? And images are very strong. So basically what I'm trying to say is this was for us. This was for the consumption of the West. This is like, see, you're in danger. You need us. You need the government to protect you. And what protection means, as far as, big government's concerned, is basically taking your civil liberties away from you. We saw it after 9/11. That's where the conspiracy theory wackos started coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, look, this was an inside job. It was a way of beginning to take our civil liberties away from us. Whether you believe it was or not, the fact of the matter remains. What happened after 9/11? Yes, we lost a lot of our civil liberties. You can't go through an airport without being molested anymore.
There's a few things I found very curious about what happened in Paris. The casualness with which the gunmen committed. Yeah,
they didn't seem afraid.
No, as a matter of fact, there's one bit of video that the amateur video across the street that shows them standing outside by the car, unjamming a weapon, putting it on the roof of the car, and just sitting there casually, almost, all that was missing was, let's have a cigarette. They're just standing there, and then they got on, then they ran down the street, then got in the car, then coming the other direction was a cop car. And they were about to hit each other, going head on. They both stopped, and the cop car backed out and let them through. That was on Fox News, folks.
Yeah, and of course, what all...
Because the streets are narrow there. You can't go side by side.
What invariably happens at the end of all these standoffs?
They catch them. They die, usually.
They're almost always dead.
Yeah.
Because dead man tell no tales.
No loose ends. Leave no loose ends.
And... we knew. How did they know? Okay, these were masked gunmen. How did they know their names? Who they were?
They knew them right away.
Within, I don't know, minutes, hours. I don't know how. It was a short.
It was later that night.
They knew who they were.
It was. I remember seeing it for the first time.
They hadn't even captured them, but they knew who they were. How did they know?
I knew it on Megyn Kelly's show. That is when they released it that night. That's how late in the day it was. But still. They hadn't captured them. How? And here's the other thing. How did they know where they went to afterwards?
Yeah, this is for our consumption. This is like we can hear about what happened in Africa, but we don't have any pictures. So it's hard to imagine something like that. But it was in our face what happened in Paris. It was like, see. There's dangerous people out there, and we need to protect you.
Here's a headline.
And they're already talking about that, by the way. They're talking about clamping down as far as security. One day you're going to wake up and there's going to be nothing but troops in the street. And that's going to be your security. That's also going to be your prison.
Here's a headline. Police in Belgium, France, and Germany make arrests in anti-terror raids. Okay, how come they didn't do this before what happened in Paris happened?
Yeah, and then the definition of terrorist, as I just told you a few minutes ago, is going to be narrowed down to domestic terrorists like my brother and I, because we have certain beliefs. Those are going to be real.
And probably all my friends.
Don't think that can't happen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you'll have people say it can't happen because we have the Constitution. Forget the Constitution. They violate that left and right every day.
Tell me how afraid of the Constitution Obama is.
Not much.
He just does executive orders, memoranda.
He is so unafraid of the Constitution that whenever he issues an executive order, he's already got the, quote, experts to say, no, this isn't a violation, but no one questions the, quote, experts.
What did he tell his supporters the other day? That he was going on the offensive? You're going to see stuff in this next 2 years that you...
You know why? Because he's got a pen and a cell phone.
Yeah, whatever. So that's my take on that whole thing that happened in Paris. That is for the West's consumption. And Russia Today comes out with this. Now, it's entitled, No Oil, No Protection. Boko Haram Massacre in Nigeria sees little reaction from the U.S. And it doesn't. And now, what I find fascinating with that, the whole, I'm not going to read you the article, but it basically states that the reason why the United States isn't reacting to the massacre in Nigeria is because there's no oil involved. It's funny coming from Russia Today because we're basically at war right now with Russia, and it's all over oil. So they're tying the two in. But
this morning, someone on Fox News even said Cold War ended 30 years ago.
Oh no,
no, it's heated back up.
We're not in a hot war yet.
No,
we're definitely in a Cold War. We're economically at war with Russia right now.
At the very least, we're in a lukewarm war.
And I described last week what led up to Japan attacking us at Pearl Harbor. Very similar things we were doing economically to them, we're doing to Russia right now. And right now oil is at $46 a barrel. We're going to destroy fracking, and we're going to destroy Russia. You can't even get the oil out of the ground for $46 a barrel.
Gasoline is essentially half what it was a year ago per gallon.
And you're going to the stock market. And I was reading this Harry Dent. He's an economist. He's talking about how this low oil prices are going to destroy the economy. And he said, the article says, oil price plunge trigger for next global crisis. Mm-hmm. And he's predicting the stock market, you're going to see it in the next month or two, start going up maybe around 19, possibly even 20,000. And then in March, he predicts the bubble bursts. And eventually it'll go down to 6,000. Everybody's life savings pretty much up in smoke. And that has to do with the oil price. Everybody, we Americans tend to look at it like, I'll tell you the truth, I'm loving, I paid $1.57 with my Fry's points the other day. $1.57 for a gallon of gas.
I'm going to go get some soon today, too.
But the broader picture is not good. Folks, wars are fought over things like this. And I'm not saying that we're going to go to war with Russia, but countries have gone to war over matters like this. Mm-hmm. So that's Russia Today's take, was that we didn't care about what happened with Boko Haram in Nigeria because of oil. And I don't know, there might be some truth in that. I just think we didn't pay much attention to it because it wasn't devised. It wasn't contrived. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. I think what you saw in Paris was contrived. Mm-hmm. Just my take. You got, of course, dead men tell no tales. So we'll never know.
And I hate to say this, I'll probably be branded a pariah for saying this, but I think what happened in that school in Connecticut, Sandy Hook, might have been contrived too for a different reason.
Well, what do we hear after all those mass shootings? We hear we got to get rid of the guns.
Yep,
we got to get rid of the guns.
And what happened to the shooter? Oh, he's dead. Oh, so is his mom.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, by the way,
no loose ends.
What do you hear about Liam Neeson? What he had to say?
Oh my God.
Well, there's just too many guns. Okay, well, let me tell you something. It's illegal for a citizen in Paris to own a gun. Folks, the cops don't even have guns. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening? A cop sitting there, had he had a gun, he could have stopped these guys. Instead, he gets a bullet to the brain. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing?
Nope.
What world are you living in?
And Liam Neeson...
All he does is portray gun-wielding type.
For his latest movie, was it Taken 3?
Yeah, which I like those
He
movies,
made $15 million.
Yeah, it's hypocrisy.
He's the biggest hypocrite there is.
How much you want to bet he has a bodyguard staff?
And you know what? Here's the other thing about Liam Neeson. He didn't always do these movies. He's got a second career doing these type of movies. He used to be a leading man type actor.
And how much you want to bet he has a security staff and they carry guns?
You bet.
How much you want to bet?
You bet.
So, you know, what Scott just said about a lot of these school shootings, you know, again, that falls into the conspiracy theory, you know, wacko group, but it follows the same pattern. Mm-hmm. There's nobody left alive. There's nobody to tell, you know, their side of the story. All these wackos are basically drugged. They're all been on psychotropic drugs. They you know, and
okay, they always bring up homegrown terrorism. They always bring up Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, but yet Terry Nichols, I mean, you would think that would be used by them, right? You know, but Terry Nichols is still alive. He's told the whole story. Well,
not only that, but McVeigh
was not the same thing.
Was painted as a far right wing religious fanatic,
right?
Which none of it's true.
You look at his stuff he left behind; they were leftist.
He wasn't a Christian.
Well, not only that, but the stuff he left behind was to the left.
But that's
the writings.
That's the first
the literature he read.
That's the first thing they want to do. That's the media's first knee-jerk reaction is to tie any sort of radical.
When Gabby Giffords got shot 3 years ago down in Tucson, the guy who whatever his name, I forgot his name. Anyway, he was painted. They were speculating within an hour or two that this guy was a right-wing gun nut.
Well, what was the one murder where one of the guys from CBS, I think it was CBS, was scouring this particular, I can't remember the suspect's name, but the first thing he did was to go to the Tea Party list. He went the Tea Party membership. They found a guy with the very same name. And
Wrong guy, same name.
Wrong guy, same name. But he threw it out there because that's how they think. Mm-hmm. They think the Tea Party is supposed to be some radical group that we should fear, violent and scary. Mm-hmm. They're all they are people who want the Constitution enforced and they want their taxes lowered. Plain and simple.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. But they are demonized.
Mm-hmm.
And they're made into some boogeyman and made and attached to things that they've never even done.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Remember one of who was it that said that he was at some rally and they were calling him the N-word and so forth?
David Webb?
No, it wasn't David Webb.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it a senator or a congressman?
Yeah. If the left couldn't lie, they would have no agenda. They wouldn't. They couldn't run on what they're shoving down everybody's throats.
Right.
Throats. They have to lie and smear their opponents.
Mm-hmm. Tell you folks what this country needs. No, I'm not going to paraphrase Jack Nicholson from Batman, where he says, "What this city needs is an enema." No, what we need heroes. We need real heroes nowadays. And if you ever need a proof, look at the movies that are the biggest box office in the last 10 years. They had The Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, Captain America, and most recently, just yesterday, American Sniper, in its first day of release, set a record, $30.5 million, projected to possibly do as high as $80 million for the first weekend. That would be another record, because I think the record is $75 million right now. It's because people are hungry for this stuff, folks.
Yeah, it's because we've been beaten down. We've been given a steady diet of anti-heroes.
Yeah.
You know, the bad guy the bad guys are the ones people root for anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because they've painted them bigger or larger than life.
Well, just look at the Batman series. They've got to make the bad guys even badder, and they've even got to make Batman a little dark.
Yeah, and he was in the original comics. He was somewhat dark. He got a little more lightened up a little bit when Michael Keaton first portrayed him in the first 2 movies he did. But in the last few with Christian Bale, he was dark. That's why it's called The Dark Knight. I
want to switch gears here real quick and talk about the economy, or this quote unquote recovery that we're supposedly having. I was watching Fox News yesterday morning, getting ready for work, and they had this real estate professional on, is talking about what a great time it was to buy a house right now, because first, unemployment's down, and I'm screaming at the TV. Unemployment's down because there's now 93 million people out of the workforce. That's almost 1 in 3. Who's going to buy these houses? We're fed a daily menu of lies about this economy.
Mm-hmm.
Total out. And here's an article. This is oh boy, who's this from? I can't remember because I cut it off. Anyway, it's been revealed that for the first time in 35 years, American business deaths now outnumber business births. In other words, there's more businesses going out of business than businesses being started. Now, tell me, who's going to buy those houses? I mean, it's like everything is fake news out there.
Mm-hmm.
They had this writer the other day gushing about how things have never been better. I'm looking at them and going, there's more people on food stamps than there's ever been. The true unemployment rate is probably around 20%. More kids, more to 20-year-olds and older are living with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
They're in debt. They've got an education that they can't do anything with because all the jobs have been shipped overseas. The only positive for the common man is that gas is cheaper for him to buy, but its ultimate effects are going to be negative for the macro economy. It's going to be terrible. But somehow, we're told that everything's just dandy. The stock market, look at the stock market. You know why the stock market is doing what it's doing? Because all the money, all the QE money has never gotten into the hands of the common man to invest, to start businesses, or it's been kept in the hands of the bankers, and they're investing it in the stock market.
Instead of doing what they're supposed to do with it.
And our money is being devalued because we keep printing. Okay? The debt is continuing to increase. It's almost doubled since Obama became president. It took 200 years to get where it was, and Obama, in the course of 6 years, has almost doubled it.
And here is, and I just thought of this. I never thought of this illustration before. If you want to know why having more of something devalues it, think about a bag of M&Ms. There was a time when you couldn't find a blue M&M hardly, and they were valued because they're so scarce.
Think about it. The stock market is high because the dollar is worthless.
Yes, because you have to spend more dollars to buy each share of stock.
So, I'm going to quote Ecclesiastes 4:14 loosely. It basically talks about, do not be deceived. There will be those that will try to deceive you, and that's all this is one huge deception.
I work with a number of people who own they're heavily invested in stock, and they say, "Oh, this is great! It's going up, and the prices, everything's going to go up. It's going to split. It's going up, guys, because sure, it's worth more dollars per share than it was 1, 2, 5, 10 years ago, but the buying power of each of those dollars is less than it was 1, 2, 5, and 10 years ago. They don't understand that.
How is our living standard increasing then? It's not.
It's not.
People are working twice as hard to earn what they made 10 years ago. They have to, because our living standard has been eroded because of our dollar. And you know, I'm getting really tired of I have friends who outwardly, and they love to do it in a group, mock me.
Oh, I get it at work all the time. Because
I buy precious metals. I buy food. I buy things at today's price that will be unattainable when the dollar totally comes crashing down. So I'm the loony bin, and my friend's heavily invested in stocks. And he's just like, man, I'm just making money hands over fist. I said, you're making paper is what you're making.
I got people I work with that tell me that are the same way with me, but they take it a step further. And they say that, well, you know, you've just refinanced your house, you've paid off all your debt and everything. Why don't you go and get another car? Get a good brand new car. Why? My car is perfectly functional. Why do I want to go into debt? They're the same people also that say, why don't you just sell your house and rent it out and buy a bigger house for yourself? Why do I want to do that? One
of the worst investments is a car.
Yeah, but why would I want to buy another about until I have to?
I got a 10-year-old car that has 170,000 miles on it.
Mine's an 11-year-old car. It has about 143 on it right now, and it runs fine.
I live in a 40-year-old house.
I live in a 20-year-old house, 21-year-old house.
You know, I'll tell you what. I don't wake up any less happy than some guy living in a mansion.
You and I were talking a few weeks ago about when it finally the bubble does burst, that you and I will be in better shape than a lot of people will. Mm-hmm. Why was that now? With our houses and whatnot?
Well, no, it's not that we'll be in better shape. The only positive that's going to come out of, if there's two scenarios when the economy falls, you have hyperinflation and you have hypo. What you have hyperinflation. You can either have hyperinflation or you can have deflation.
Right.
Okay. The only positive that comes out of hyperinflation basically means our dollar becomes totally worthless, and that everything is skyrocketing in price, and a gallon of milk will cost you $20, blah, blah, blah. The positive to that is that because of inflation, there will have to be more dollars out there. So you'll be being paid more.
Right.
Everything will cost more, but you'll be being paid more. So therefore, the debt that you incurred 10 years ago will be still at that level. So you'll be able to pay that off easier.
Quicker, yeah.
So that's basically gets into an economic term called the time value of money, which I won't get into.
Right.
Yeah. So, I had something else I wanted to say regarding that. Go ahead.
I don't know, but no, I these people who ridicule you, if you're like us, who ridicule you for buying precious metals, guns, ammo, and food. Let's say, for instance, that we're wrong. After it's all over, we still have precious metals, guns, ammo, and food.
And I'll tell you why you and I are going to be better. And this is a very important thing. There's two aspects. First of all, we have a belief in Jesus and a God, and a heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. We believe in that. Secondly, they're not going to know what hit them. Psychologically, they will be devastated. Those are people who jump out of windows. You know, in 1929, after the stock market crashed there. Those people will be jumping out of windows because they will not know what hit them, because they've been taking the blue pill as opposed to the red pill, sticking their head in the sand and, you know, rocking and rolling with this supposedly great economy we have.
But that's not to say that it's not going to be hard on us.
No.
It's going to be, but it'll be easier than it will be on a lot of people, because we'll know we're going to be prepared.
Well, we'll at least have some reserves of, that.
Well, best thing to do, folks, is head for the hills. Literally. You don't want to be around a big metropolitan area when it happens.
And you need to surround yourself with like-minded people.
I suggest going on FreedomWorks. I bet there's a lot of people up there that are like-minded. As a matter of fact, I gotta reintegrate myself into that. It's been a while since I've really been into that.
I just sent a text message to the 25 people who refused to vote for Boehner to FreedomWorks. I sent them a text message. There was a mass text message sent to FreedomWorks
I must have
to
missed
send
it.
our appreciation to the 25 who didn't vote for Boehner yesterday. So
good.
Probably millions of people.
All right, folks. Well, that's another show for this week. We will be back next week, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty to talk about because there always is in this world.
World is changing at breakneck speed.
All right, folks. Have a good week. Stay safe. See you next Saturday. Bye-bye.
God bless.